Welcome to another episode of the Poultry Keepers Podcast, where we talk poultry from feathers to function. In this episode, Rip Stalvey, Carey Blackmon, and Blake Bell discuss the nuances of brooding and raising Brahma chickens.
We talked about hatching. What about brooding Brahma chicks? Anything special there?
When I brood them, I typically start them in our 5-tier brooder. They stay in there for 2 weeks. Then I move them to another wire bottom pen. And the wire helps with the foot feathering, believe it or not. I find that if I put them on the ground with dirt, the dirt will actually mess with the foot feathering more than the wire will. I put them on wire and I get them about 2 months old on wire. And then after that, they go into our brooding sheds, and I separate our males and our females at that point, about 2.5, 3 months old. And then we just raise them out like that. And the dark Brahmas are way hardier than the light Brahmas.
You were talking about the dirt messing with foot feathering more than wire does, where you would think it would be opposite. But I've heard Craig Hansen talk about the same thing with his coachings, because he keeps his, of course, he's got banners, but he keeps them on wire floors.
I condition, if I do condition a bird, and that's just if I have 5 males that are fighting or whatnot, I'll put them in conditioning pens for a show, just so they don't beat each other up. I'll put them on wire too, even as adults.
Makes sense.
And then they need lots of grass. The more grass, the better. If they have access to grass as chicks, they will be larger, hardier, just well-rounded birds.
Yep.
If they're just on grain, they won't be near as good chickens, in my opinion.
You do it old school, don't you?
Frank Reese taught me well.
Yes, he did. Talked about rearing. We talked about breeding. You talked about coops. What about getting a Brahma ready for a show? What do you do there?
The only ones I wash are the light Brahmas, and it's mostly flies, actually, that get them dirty. The little brown dots that flies leave when they land on stuff is if in the heat of the summer or in the late spring, when the flies start coming out, they'll leave these little brown dots all over the light Brahmas, and that's the only reason I have to wash them. Other than that, I just pull them straight out of the breed pen, and they go to the show.
I'm glad to hear you say something about flies, because I hadn't noticed that too, and I thought, I've never heard anybody else talk about it very much, so maybe I'm just imagining things, but I guess not.
Yeah, they leave those little black dots on everything. Let's see. When you do wash them, I use laundry detergent. It's all free and clear, so there's no dyes, no scent, no nothing. It makes the birds very white on the light Brahmas, and it's not harmful if they drink it. That way, you're not losing any chickens while you're washing them, and it gets them clean.
Vince?
Yeah, he's not the first person that I've had tell me that. I make laundry detergent as one of my businesses that I do here locally. And I actually had somebody ask me that if it was really like the brand name. And I said, yeah, I'm going to use it to wash my chickens. So I wanted to make sure. I know you probably think that's funny, but that's really what I'm going to do with it. I heard about it online and I wanted to try it. And then when she got here and she saw all my chicken stuff, she knew that I took her serious when she said that.
Got a question here. Wants to know what size wire mesh on the floor of your pens?
1/4 by 1/2. I don't use the 1/4 by 1/4. It's just a little too small, but I use the 1/4 by 1/2. And then we use the same stuff for all of our rabbits too. So it's just nice to use the same thing for all of your species.
Makes life a lot simpler.
Yes, it does.
We got a request here. See if I can find it. Can you show the picture of the two lights comparing large fowl and bantams? The tail sweep is different for large fowl and bantams, correct? Let's take a look-see here.
The tail sweep shouldn't be different, but just with the way they're being bred, you're going to have a little bit of difference.
Yes.
On the females, your tail's medium in length, spread at the base, resembling an inverted U. On all of our other breeds, we want a triangle. But on the Brahmas, we're looking for an upside down U. It has to be a U, otherwise it's really not a Brahma tail. So on the lights, personally, I like the Bantam better. And I wish my lights were like my Bantams. I wish they had a sweep, because I think their tail should be it should almost end up where their head is. So it should almost be level. And that's the old style Brahma. The new style Brahma is more like that light hen in the back, that large fowl. She has more of a flat back with just a little bit of angle at that tail, right where it ends there.
Mm-hmm.
And I like a full sweep.
Agreed. I can remember when I was a teenager, and we had, probably 2 or 3 breeders here that showed Brahmas in Central Florida. And his birds' tails were well up. They were pretty much on level with their heads. And it sure made them look good, I thought.
Neither of them are wrong, because, I have the standard here. So it says at the end of it, carried high enough to continue the sweep of back. So as long as it sweeps at all, it's still standard. And it's really up to our discretion on what we like.
Gotcha.
But a good solid tail set is one of my pet peeves. If at any age they start dropping their tail, whether it's from the heat, the cold, stress, or they're just dropping their tail, they go down the road. I want them to carry their tail under any circumstances at the right angle.
Makes sense.
Sorry, I lost my place. Deborah Hudson says, love the Frank Reese birds. I raised and showed large fowl white Cornish from his lines. Frank has some good Cornish too.
Oh, yeah.
Go full screen so I can read this. Now I have dark partridge and blue partridge Brahmas. Going to try to make some solid blues just for fun.
I want some of Frank Reese's turkeys.
All right, do you have any of this?
Yeah, I do. I'm going
so.
out there this weekend again to sort through some New Hampshires chickens.
I got some of his birds, his New Hampshires, for a friend of mine. He said, I've never seen New Hampshires like that. I said,
old style.
Yeah, very much old style. But I'm an old guy, so I go for the old style.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong at all with that.
Okay, so what about feed for Brahmas? Anything special there?
So this goes back to old style for me. I feed a 19% protein. I feed a mash, and I feed the same thing to every bird on the property, whether it's a duck, a goose, a chicken, a baby chicken a day old, a hen laying. They all get the same 19% protein. And the ducks, they just get a little bit of grass, and it grows them all good. And I don't believe in changing all your feeds around, because that's just going to stress them out. If you go from baby chick feed to a different feed, it stresses them out. And then it takes them a whole 2-3 weeks to get their gut back in balance and all of that. So I just feed the same thing all the way through until they leave.
You said you fed a mash. Is that a really fine ground mash or a little coarser mash?
It's pretty fine. It's one step above baby powder.
Gotcha. I feed a mash, but it's more of a coarse grind.
Me too. And I found once my birds got used to that mash, if I was to put a pellet in one of the feed cups now or in one of my troughs, my birds would probably look at me like I was crazy. For me, it's easier to handle. It smells really good. And when it's already a mesh, like, they can absorb more of the nutrition out of it. So I personally have found that they consume less feed than when I was feeding a traditional pellet.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I can't switch feeds now. They won't eat it, like he was saying. And the other thing is, on the Brahmas, they need feed in front of them. So I said the lights eat all the time, but they also need feed in front of them all the time, because they eat less that way, like 25% less if you have feed in front of them at all times. If I let them go out of feed, they'll go through 2 bags of feed in 2 days per pen just to catch back up to where they were, because they're big birds. They need constant nourishment. And that's kind of why I like them on this grass. Just that way they get bugs and they get grass all day long. Then they can go in and get that grain, get that feed, and sleep on that, put that in their bodies, and then go back out on the field.
Shaggy wants to know what makes a good wing for the dark color. I'm guessing he's talking about the pattern.
Probably the pattern. So when you pull the wing out on your primaries, you just want the bottom edge to be edged in silver, basically. And it's from about halfway down the wing feather to the tip. And it's only the edge. So it's edged in silver for the primaries and the axle feather. And then when you get to the secondaries, it's the opposite side, but half of the feather is silver and half of the feather is black. And that's the practical way to put it. And then we need to make sure that those wings are carried nice and horizontal and tight to the body. Your mic's off, Rip.
Thank you. I have a bad habit of doing that when I cough and turn it off. Some people have a problem understanding that wing pattern. So I appreciate you explaining that the way you did.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah Hudson has a question here. What's y'all's opinion on fermenting the chicken feed?
My opinion on fermenting feed is it's good if you have the time, the barrels, and the birds will eat it. So I've tried fermenting feed and my birds, they don't eat it. It gets stuck in the top of their mouth because it's still wet.
Mm-hmm.
And they get turned off by that and they go off and they find other stuff to eat. So it doesn't work for my farm, but if you probably raised them up on it, it would probably work. And they definitely get more nutrition out of it, in my opinion, but it doesn't work for me.
I tried it and I found pretty much the same thing. And really it was more time consuming and more hassle than I was willing to devote to it at that time. That's back when I was working 80 hours a week and I just didn't have the time.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Fermenting feed, that only works if you have the time to properly manage it. If you can't properly manage it, you're dancing with disaster when it comes to being in there too long or whatever.
Yes.
And it's like both of y'all, I don't have that kind of time either.
I have a little more time now, but I just got lazy in my old age. So Pseudotropus wants to say that's a good explanation on wings. I thought so too. You done good, buddy. Okay, if somebody wants to learn more about Brahmas, do you have any books you would recommend?
The first thing I would do is go join the American Brahma Club. They send out a newsletter periodically, so I think it's 3 a year. There's a lot of good resources and a lot of knowledgeable people in there. And honestly, knowledge from a breeder is going to serve you better than knowledge from a book, because the book, the words are there, but sometimes you don't understand them, just like the wing color. But if a breeder explains it to you, they might be able to change it just a little bit to make it to where you can understand or comprehend it. I'd recommend just finding a breeder to mentor you in the color that you want to work with, and then just ask them as many questions as they'll answer without telling you to stop asking questions.
There is that factor, yeah.
There's the standard of perfection, and that's just an invaluable resource.
Yeah. What about websites? Any websites you'd recommend?
Robert Anderson's website, Blue Hour Poultry, has a lot of good information about Brahmas on there. He's been doing it a long time, and I look up to him, and he's done really good with the birds.
I really like Bob. I've judged with him before, and he is exceedingly knowledgeable in all things poultry. What about social media groups, Facebook groups, or?
So there's a few. There's a group called Brahmas. I think it's like Brahmas Projects and Colors. So all of the colors get to be posted in there. It's on Facebook. There is the American Brahma Club Facebook group. And they post a lot of good pictures on there and a lot of good information. And there's a few others. You just search up Brahma in your search feed and make sure that you're in an American group, because in other countries, Brahmas have vulture hawks. So right behind the hawk is a triangle section of stiff feathers. And in our standard, it's a disqualification, but in their standard, you have to have it or they get disqualified. And it actually correlates with foot feathering and size. So we'll never have the foot feathering they have in Europe, but we don't have vulture hawks, so we can't.
I've never heard it explained that way, but that makes sense. Thank you. Anything else you want to add, Blake?
Unless anybody else has any questions they want to comment about all I got.
Don't have anything here. Carey, you got any questions for the good of the order here?
Yeah, Blake, I am curious. What is that over your right shoulder?
Left shoulder or right shoulder. Okay,
Yeah.
it's backwards.
Other
there.
right.
Those are
Sorry.
dark Brahmas.
That's what I was curious if it was that or if it was turkeys.
Yeah, they're about the size of
About the same size.
Yeah, those are all my Brahma girls. There's 60 of them in that pen.
Nice.
We're hoping to show 30 at Shawnee, Oklahoma for the APA National Dark Brahmas.
So earlier
alone
when you said,
You alone, Blake, or with other people?
I went into those by myself.
Oh, cool.
that's going to be a lot of work.
You're going to be a tired puppy by the time you load all those things up and get them to the show and unload them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So earlier you were talking about how large they were. So to put it in perspective for the listeners, when you say large for a Brahma, what does a 12, 14-month-old cockerel and pullet look like as far as weight wise and maybe some kind of size comparison?
For size comparison, the Brahmas behind me are 6-month-old, and we just weighed them, and they're roughly 6.5 to 7 pounds. So
Okay.
they're very slow growing. But
Right.
once they finish out, their dad weighs 13.5 pounds.
Gotcha.
He's
Okay.
1.5 pounds over standard weight. Think of a small dog, like that's the size of a Brahma.
Good analogy.
Like
So if we're going to KFC, a Brahma's the whole bucket.
Brahma's 2 buckets.
Okay. All right. The American breast better watch out.
Shaggy said he will see you at Shawnee.
Yep.
He's good people. Somebody's giving you a plug that you also have good information on your Facebook page about Brahmas.
I try to keep all my Facebook, on my personal profile, everything's poultry. I don't do anything that's not chicken.
Mike Franklin says that dark pen of 60 is a thing of beauty. I agree, Mike. There's something else. I don't have anything else. Carey doesn't have anything else, and Blake doesn't have anything else. So, with
I
that
can go
said,
grab a Brahma real quick.
we got time.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to show my camera off. I'll be right back.
All right, go for it. That's a treat. I've never had anybody say they just go grab a chicken for it.
I was going to say, that's not something that just happens every day. That's awesome.
I think Blake is the only person that we've ever interviewed or had on the show that was outside.
And I really liked it.
Yeah.
The cicadas just really that, and the roosters, just that screams.
Well, man, what's not to like about a rooster crowing? Come
I
on
know.
now.
So while he's doing that, my wife and I are foster parents, and we got a new foster child last night. And she said, "Is that chickens in the back?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "That sound they make, it's relaxing." I looked over at my wife and she said, "He doesn't need any encouragement."
I think your wife's got your number.
Yeah, it'll be all right. Oh, look.
This is a cockerel out of that pen. And like I said, he's only barely 6 months old.
Man, he's feathering out really nice.
And then I can show on him, if you can see it, there's white edging right here on his
Mhm.
thigh.
Mm-hmm.
That white edging is what gets the females penciling. But it's not in the standard that way because it needs to be solid black to show. But if you keep the white edging and the fluff there on the thighs, it keeps the penciling good.
So the white edging is definitely what you would need in a breeder bird.
Yes.
So you get the penciling the way it needs to be. That's
And the
awesome.
same thing with his breast. He has white edging on some of the feathers here.
Yep.
And it's not enough to make it like a DQ or anything. So you could show him if he's a really typey bird
Right.
still. But it also helps with that penciling.
Gotcha. I appreciate you taking a few minutes. Go out there and snag one of those birds and make him a TV star.
Yeah. And then here's your U-shaped tail.
Yes.
A lot of newcomers that message and they ask what pictures of the birds for sale. A lot of us Brahma breeders, we send pictures of the rear view to show they have a U-shaped tail. And then often we'll get comments, you Brahma breeders just send pictures of their rear end. But it's very important that we have this wide U-shape
Yep.
and not a triangle.
I agree with you. That's very much a Brahma characteristic. Very much.
On a wide bodied bird is important.
Yes. All righty. Blake, we really appreciate you. Oh, Shaggy wants to know, do you double mate?
Yes and no. I have lines from 8 different breeders that I keep pure for dark Brahmas specifically. And then I have my own line, which is a mixture of all of those. But I base them all back to those 2 birds, the 2 Frank Reese birds. Those go back to Barbara Piper. And I base all of my birds back onto that line.
I tell you what, Barbara had some magnificent birds. Golly.
I double mate some, but a lot of it is just I pair the genetics I know that click. Because some lines, when I test cross them, it turns out total garbage. And you'll lose the whole crop just because it didn't work. Especially for a pattern color like this. But some lines, every time you cross them, it just clicks. And then for the rest of the time, it just works. Especially when you get to the 3rd generation, it's just magnificent when it works.
Folks, we're running to the tail end of our show here. Blake, again, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your Brahmas with us. Carey, thank you for being here to keep me straight tonight. I need all the help I can get. So,
My pleasure.
folks, until next time, keep enjoying your birds and have a good week.
We appreciate you joining us for another podcast episode. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we did. And as always, we invite you to join us next Tuesday for another podcast episode.